the article about my life that was published in Karlsruhe at the BNN newspaper. You are listening to Empower Mind Talk, navigating mental health, strength, and belonging. And let me tell you something, this is a real soul talk. I am your host, Maureen, a life and purpose coach, mental health advocate, Asia coach, author, and a fellow traveler on this winding path of healing, identity, and homecoming. Hello and welcome back to Empower Mind Talk. This week, I promised you something special. A few days ago, an article about my life was published in Karlsruhe, that's the region where I stay, at the BNN, that's Badischen Neuesten Nachrichten here in Karlsruhe. And the headline still sits with me. It goes, driven by the dream of better education. Today, I'm not only simply going to take you or repeat what was written. I want to open doors behind those lines and take you with me into the moments that shaped me, the emotions that didn't fit on the pages, and the lessons that only make sense when you live them yourself. So, let's start where my story truly begins. In Kenya, in my childhood, in a life that taught me early that education is not always a given. It can be something you have to negotiate for, to hustle for, and sometimes even beg for. And in my case, it began with something very ordinary to many people in East Africa and especially around where I grew up. Mandazi. If you know Mandazi, you know it is as simple as a delicious snack, a fried pastry, often in triangle, but back then we did them like in oval or roundish, something like that, or circle. A fried pastry, like I said, the kind that you pick up with tea or when you are walking through a market. But for me, Mandazi wasn't just food. It was strategy. It was survival. It was hope in a paper bag. Because here is the truth. My father didn't want to pay for my education just because I was a girl, not because he couldn't afford or couldn't pay for the education. He had a job that could afford paying for that, but just because, like I said, I was a girl. And when a child hears that their future is being limited by something they didn't choose, something as basic as their gender, it does something inside them. For a while, it makes you small. And then, if you are lucky, it makes you determined. And my mother was the first person who helped me turn that determination into action. She didn't have a magic solution. She had courage, creativity, and a refusal to let my story end before it began. We started searching for small openings, for small chances, anything that could help me stay in school. And that's how we found ourselves, or I found myself selling mandazis as a young girl, walking through markets around Kakamega area, trying to turn coins into fees or into school fees. But the fees were not small, like into when you go to Kenya, school fees is never something that you can say, I just pay it like that. They were thousands and are still thousands of Kenya shillings. And what I made selling mandazis day after day rarely covered everything. So my life became a circle that I can still feel in my body when I think about it today. I would attend school for a weeks or like a few weeks, sometimes for a couple of months. And that could be maximum the length. I think the longest length if it was like months in row. And then, of course, I would be sent home for school fees again because the fees weren't fully paid. And back to the market, like when I went back home, was like back to the market and back to the streets, back to trying again. Monday to Sundays, I walked through the Kakamega market, and I want you to imagine what that means for a child at my age. I was a young child. I finished my primary education at 13 years old, and that was like that age when like the coming 4 years was made for the markets. But yeah, that's like just imagine that age of 13 years old, and that's not a child playing or not just like hooking up like a teenager, not a child dreaming freely, but a child carrying responsibility, a child listening to footsteps, scanning faces, learning which people might buy and which people would ignore you, learning to speak up, learning to keep going even when your feet hurt and your heart hurts as well. And yet, that market gave me something I never expected. And that is something I always say, because when we see our struggles, we see there was something to bring us down. Never we always look at what could have been that something I could take out of it. And I was really at that young age knew, because I took that responsibilities. I knew to go to the market, I have to sell mandazis, I have to walk around to the people when it's almost dark to sell the rest so that I can get the least money that could have been that I could have gotten out of it. I need to then buy the next budget that we need for the next cooking mandazi, like buy flour again, buy the oil, calculate, like make calculations on that, buy the next things that we need, and as well as buy food for the family, because that at the market we had some cheaper food, so I was supposed to bring also food with me, like making the calculation, like how much they sell today, how much flour do we need then for tomorrow, and the oil that is needed also as well, and how much is it remaining, and we need also to have the savings so that the school box gets a little bit filled up. And like I said, the marketplace gave me something I never really expected. It became my first classroom. In fact, it became my first business school. It was my office before I even knew what an office was. It trained me in resilience and communication. It taught me courage, persistence, and the art of not giving up when something matters to you. That's the thing about fighting for education or fighting for something in your life. You stop seeing it as a routine. You don't take it for granted at the end of the day. You see it as a door, one you are pushing open with your whole life. So you have to keep pushing that door no matter what comes. Then, at the age of 19, I made a decision that changed everything. I left Kenya and moved to Germany. Let's pause on that for a second. I am 19 years old in a new country. My auntie was there. She invited me, but it was a new country for me, a new culture, and I didn't speak the language. All I knew was Guten Morgen. Also, I didn't have a clear picture of what my future would look like. I just knew I had to move. I had to try. And I had this dream inside me that no matter what, this belief that education could still become my foundation also in this new country. Even if the path took too long and it kept changing, that was the belief that I had inside me. German taught me, of course, many things, some things beautiful. And of course, I always say after 2 decades, I say there are beautiful things that German taught me, and they made me become who I am today as well. But there are also some painful things, very painful things German taught me. And there is a line from the article that really captures one of the most life-shaping realizations I had when I joined the German space. And it goes, I only realized in Germany that I was Black or that I Black. That sentence can sound really surprising for some people, but it's real. It's the reality of the skin color that speaks before you enter a room. In Kenya, I was simply me. I was a girl. I was a student. I was a daughter, someone trying to make it, yes. But in Germany, I learned very quickly how society can place labels on you and treat you according to those labels. I experienced racism, sometimes loud, of course, sometimes obvious, but often quiet and complicated to mention. Discrimination isn't always a direct insult. Sometimes it's subtle, and that's what makes it difficult to even talk about or to explain it. It's a look that lingers too long, a comment that sounds harmless but isn't, a door that doesn't open as easily for you as it does for someone else. And that constant undercurrent of being tolerated but not fully welcome, especially in professional environments, those moments can cut deep. Because you are not only trying to build a career, you are trying to prove you belong in the room in the first place. And one moment I'll never forget is when I applied for a training position back then, and someone suggested I should take a German last name to have better chances. Think about that for a moment. The message behind it isn't just this might help you. The message is you or who you are might be too much for this system. And to be honest with you, there are times even today when I shortened or adapt my name because I know what happens when people struggle with unfamiliar names. And I know how quickly a name becomes an excuse to misjudge, an excuse to dismiss, an excuse not to try. But there is also something I have always been clear about. And I want to say it here plainly, really plainly on that. I will never hide who I am. Never. And this is something you should take with you. Never should you attempt to hide who you are, not in any circumstances, not in any situation. Be yourself and try to be yourself in all moments. And adjusting how something is pronounced is one thing, erasing yourself is another. And I refuse, and so should you, to disappear to make other people comfortable. Now, life didn't unfold in a straight line after that, and it really does. And I hope you can align with me on this matter, right? I married young, later I divorced, and today I am happily married again and a proud mom of two boys. Motherhood has been one of the deepest teachers in my life, especially in those early years when I was raising my first son as a single mother. I spent almost 7 years searching for a real opportunity to continue my education. 7 years, that's not just a brief delay, that's a long season of waiting, trying, being told no, trying again, and holding onto a dream while life keeps demanding everything you have. And then something happened that I still see as a turning point in my life. I was accepted into a part-time apprenticeship program at NBW, one of the largest energy companies in Germany. This program was a pilot project back then. Nowadays, it still runs in the background and they still take some part-time mothers or young men or family, let me say parents, to be in the company. And it was new back then. And we were like 8 people in the program who did take part, and 2 of us were selected. And I can't describe the relief and the fire that lit in me at the same time. Relief because an opening finally came. Fire because I knew I couldn't waste it. I will always be grateful to NBW for taking that chance on me back then at the age of 25 as a single mom with a child with migration background. That decision changed actually the direction of my life. I went on to complete my commercial apprenticeship successfully, and today I work at ANBW as an agile coach. I support teams and leaders across organizations from trainees at the beginning of their journey to top management carrying enormous responsibility. But even as the professional doors opened, life didn't stop being life. And in the second year of my apprenticeship, we were hit by a moment that tested me in a way no workplace or nothing ever done in life that like considering back then and until today. My son became seriously ill, and with seriously ill, he was diagnosed with leukemia, that's blood cancer. When something like that happens, your entire world rearranges itself. Your priorities become sharp and immediate. Your optimism gets challenged, and your plans suddenly feel fragile. And I remember looking at my life and realizing I had only 3 options. And these were the options given to me with my work, like my job giver back then, and of course the HIACA, the constitution concerned or leading like the exams and stuff. And I had either to stop, pause, or continue, either stopping forever, like that was it, and not going back again. Pausing could have been given for 1 year because that was only the chance, like you pause for 1 year and you have to continue. And if you don't continue, the thing is gone. Continue was like with all the circumstances that I was in to just continue. And stopping would mean, of course, letting go the opportunity that I had fought for years. And that's something that I just didn't think of. It just didn't cross my mind in that sense. Pausing might have protected, of course, my energy, but it could also have mean never finding my way back. And with that, I mean, like we had the diagnosis, and it was supposed to go for 5 years. No doctor told me like, okay, after 1 year, everything will be better, or how everything would be. And pausing could have mean like, after 1 year, what else? Then what are you doing? What happened? So that was just unsecure or unsure for me to take that risk. Continuing for me felt almost impossible, but I chose to continue in that case. That choice didn't mean I wasn't afraid. It didn't mean I wasn't exhausted. It meant I was trying to hold 2 realities at once: being a mother in crisis, and in that case, a single mother in crisis, and being a student building a future. It meant studying in the hospital corridors, learning between doctor visits, keeping up with requirements while carrying the emotional weight of uncertainty. And the uncertainty wasn't short lived. For more than 5 years, we didn't have clear answers about the healing process or his healing, even if he's going to make it or not. 5 years, and I think you can come along with me, is a long time to live in question mark, a long time to wake up and not to know what the day will bring. And this was just like not even a day, like what the hour would bring. A long time to keep showing up when your heart is tired. That period tested me not only as a mother, but as a human being. It showed me the limits of control. It taught me compassion in the rawest sense. And it forced me to find strength that didn't come from only motivation or something. It came from love, from responsibility, from faith that something can get better even when you can't see how yet. And today, when I look at my son, who just turned 17 the other day, by the way, and I see him thriving, I feel a kind of gratitude that's hard to put on words. Really, I can't just put that gratitude I feel in any words that can describe it for you to get that clear picture. The kind of gratitude that isn't just happiness, it's a relief, it's a quiet thank you to life itself. This journey, these layers of struggle, hope, and rebuilding are part of what I share in my book, Ubuntu Within. So if you haven't read that book, maybe you can have a copy and just give me a review of what it does and maybe a feedback, how you found the book. Because what I learned during that season is something I want to pass on. Success is not only about career, it's also about resilience. It's about family. It's about compassion. It's about inner strength that holds you up when applause is nowhere to be found. Over time, as I started building my side business and expanding my work beyond the corporate world, another theme became impossible for me to ignore: mental health. Mental health awareness became personal, or really personal to me, not as a trend, not as a buzzword, but as something real, something connected to survival, to healing, and to how we carry our stories. And the we in it is the Ubuntu perspective. And for those who know me, they know like I am an advocate of this philosophy. So I continued my education again, this time focusing more deeply on the human mind and emotional well-being. I completed several qualifications, including a diploma in mental health and awareness, a diploma in applied modern psychology, and certification in mental health first aid. And the education continues. Maybe something will come up this year again. And I am sharing these or that not to list achievements, but to explain the direction of my work today. Because whether I am writing, coaching, speaking, building community as I did in the African, or I do in the Africa and Beyond Women Empowerment Forum, or hosting these podcasts, my focus isn't just productivity. It isn't just performance. It is the people. It's about creating a sense of we. And for those who know me, that's the Ubuntu philosophy that I follow, the we perspective that we can gain in all that we do. Or to create a space where people feel safe enough to be honest, supported enough to ask for help, and empowered enough to grow. My philosophy is simple and I live by it. Every person has the potential to grow when they are truly seen, heard, and supported. And when I look back from selling mandazis in the markets of Kenya to navigating a new life in Germany, to learning hard lessons about identity and belonging, to raising my children, finishing my apprenticeship, coaching leaders, writing books, building communities, and speaking on stages in Germany that I never thought of. I don't just see a career path. I see a story of courage. I see education as a thread that never broke, even when life tried to cut it. I see self-determination, and I see what can happen when someone refuses to let circumstances write their ending or the ending. So, if something in this episode touched you, I want to ask you to do something small. Share it with someone who might need encouragement today, someone who is in their own circle of trying and being pushed back, someone who is waiting for a door to open, someone who feels unseen. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Empower Mind Talk so you don't miss future episodes. And please remember this, because I mean it, your story matters. Your voice matters. And your journey, no matter how difficult it has been, can become someone else's inspiration. Until next episode of Empower Mind Talk, stay empowered, stay passionate, and never give up. So please keep going.